Hello, you're watching a news morning from Baku. I'm Bakhtiar Asanov, and here are the top stories. Turkish President Recep Tayyip Erdogan is set to meet NATO Secretary-General Mark Rutte in Ankara to discuss the ongoing Russia-Ukraine war and other key issues. With nearly all votes counted, Călin Georgescu wins first round of Romanian presidential election. Storm Bird wreaked havoc across the UK over the weekend, bringing a dangerous mix of severe flooding, heavy snow and strong winds. Turkish President Recep Tayyip Erdogan is set to meet NATO Secretary-General Mark Rutte in Ankara to discuss the ongoing Russia-Ukraine war and other key issues. The meeting will address recent developments in the Russia-Ukraine war, including Moscow's latest use of hypersonic medium-range ballistic missiles in response to Ukraine's deployment of US and British missiles. Turkey, a NATO member and Black Sea neighbor to both Russia and Ukraine, has condemned the invasion and supported Ukraine's territorial integrity, providing military aid to Kiev. Last week, President Erdogan criticized the U.S. decision to allow Ukraine to use long-range missiles against targets inside Russia, stating that such actions risk escalating the war. He warned that President Biden's move risks providing stronger reactions from Russia, referencing President Vladimir Putin's approval of a doctrine allowing nuclear responses. Conflicts in the Middle East, the Russia-Ukraine war and the stability of the Indo-Pacific region. These are the key topics of the G7 Foreign Ministers meeting, which kicks off today in Italy. The opening will be held in Anagni. The ministers will then travel to Fuji, where they will meet Arab delegations. On Tuesday, meetings will be held with the Ukrainian Foreign Minister Andriy Shiba and representatives from the Indo-Pacific countries. G7 leaders have already reiterated a pledge to keep imposing severe sanctions on Russia and vow to support Kiev for as long as it takes.
Present world is quite problematic, is even to a great extent, unfortunately, dangerous. Wars, both in Europe, Ukraine, in the Middle East, the revamp of hostilities, the dangers all around the world that we see daily. So it is quite important for Western countries to be in close cooperation in order to grant a sort of common position in the diplomatic talks and in looking for a better and more peaceful world.
Preliminary results in the Romanian presidential election show ultra-nationalist Călin Georgescu in a shock lead and Marcel Ciolacu in second place. That's according to the Romanian Central Electoral Bureau after the first round vote on Sunday.
With 96% of votes counted, far-right and pro-Russian candidate Călin Georgescu has received 22% of the votes and the Prime Minister Marcel Ciolacu has 20%. These figures are from the Central Electoral Bureau. Formerly a prominent member of the Hard-Right Alliance for Uniting Romanians party and being pro-Russian, the Black Sea state's staunch support for Ukraine could possibly be at stake in the second round in 2 weeks' time.
The economic insecurity imposed on the Romanian people for 35 years turned into insecurity for the political parties. The Romanian people cried peace, and they cried out loud.
Romania's president has a semi-executive role that gives him or her control over defense spending, likely to be a difficult issue as Bucharest comes under pressure to uphold NATO's spending goals during US President-elect Donald Trump's second term while trying to reduce a heavy fiscal deficit. The final results will be known later, once votes from Bucharest and the large Romanian diaspora are counted. The outcome of the second-round runoff on 8 December is likely to hinge on the country's strong stance on Ukraine.
A fierce political battle is unfolding in Poland as the presidential race begins. The Nationalist Law and Justice Party and the pro-European Civic Coalition have named their candidates.
In Warsaw, the Nationalist Law and Justice Party has announced historian Karol Nawrocki as its candidate. At just 41, Nawrocki is a key figure in promoting the party's patriotic agenda. A pro-European coalition headed by Prime Minister Donald Tusk defeated the right-wing PIS party in a parliamentary election last year. Nawrocki hopes to retain the presidency after losing control of parliament.
Chcę zostać waszym prezydentem, bo wiem I rozumiem.
I want to become your president because I know and understand that for Poland to be able to exist, it must be great. We must defend Poland. We must defend our values. We must not allow our symbols to be taken away and our sovereignty to be limited. I want to become your president because I have worked hard all my life, and I'm working hard, like you, dear Poles. Work hard. You must have a president who will also work hard for you.
Który też będzie dla was ciężko pracował.
Prezydenckich został prezydent Rafał Trzaskowski.
He will face off against progressive Warsaw Mayor Rafał Trzaskowski, representing the pro-European coalition led by Tusk. He's confident that the Civic Coalition will gain momentum from the primaries, ready to take on PIS in the upcoming presidential race.
I'm convinced that we will emerge from these primaries strengthened, and I have a very strong mandate and a lot of energy, determination and courage to win against law and justice.
The choice between nationalist and progressive visions will also shape Poland's place on the European stage. With the European Union watching closely, this election could decide if Tusk's government can reverse PIS's judicial reforms. These reforms have been widely criticised for undermining democratic principles. The first round of the election will take place at an unspecified date in May, while the likely runoff vote will be in May or June.
6 people were killed in a shooting at a bar in Mexico. Authorities say armed men entered, targeting the owner, which led to gunfire. Officials say 5 died on the spot in Tabasco, whilst 1 died on the way to the hospital. 10 others were injured and are being treated. Officials believe the attack is not linked to organized crime. The previous night there was a wedding in Tabasco which was also attacked by armed men, leaving 1 dead and 3 injured. Activists authorities say the 2 incidents are unrelated.
As a family, we never thought it would happen to us, or that would happen so directly to someone so close and dear. It really is outrageous what is happening in the state, in the country. Last week we were talking with my cousin about what happened in another bar, and now history repeats itself here. And it really is terrible what is happening, and it's terrible how the government is losing control of the security.
Storm Bert wreaked havoc across the UK over the weekend, bringing a dangerous mix of severe flooding, heavy snow and strong winds. The storm caused significant damage to homes, disrupted transportation networks and claimed at least a dozen lives.
In Wales, homes and streets were flooded in Pontypridd and residents used buckets to clear water. Firefighters worked tirelessly to pump water from a major road and back into the local river to enable the reopening of transportation links. Emergency workers rescued a stranded dog, whilst local resident Victor evacuated with his partner and their pet cat after moving valuables to the upper floor of their home.
Yeah, it's like it's not something you ever think will happen to you. You see on the news, you know, it happens in Spain, globally, and then it happens to you and it's like, oh, right, well, how do we handle it? And it's just, you know, some of them having a cuppa, some like me panicking, going away. It's just, yeah, everyone's got their own ways.
The storm caused power outages for at least 60,000 homes, businesses and farms, along with causing disruptions to flights, roads and railways. A man in his 60s died when a tree fell on his car on the A34 highway in southern England.
We work closely with the Environmental Agency and we also monitor river levels at the monitoring stations. So at the moment, the river levels are going down, which is positive. This will enable us to then pump the water, as you can see, back into the river system.
Experts from the Meteorological Office called the storm a multi-hazard event as it brought snow, heavy rain and strong winds. Recovery efforts are underway as residents hope for calmer weather ahead.
Heavy rainfall in Bolivia has caused flooding, filling homes with mud, and a child is missing. The debris has trapped many residents in their houses in the capital, and several had to escape through their roofs due to the rising water levels.
Local authorities confirmed that at least 26 people were injured and more than 40 homes were damaged in Bolivia's capital. The flooding caused the Baza Horia River to overflow, flooding the Bajo Lojeta neighborhood on the outskirts of La Paz. Officials say it's a desperate situation for families trying to find loved ones that are missing.
There was screaming and terrible desperation. A 4-year-old girl is missing and her parents are desperate. People had to leave their houses through the roofs because there was no other way to get out because the mud was already too deep.
Rescue teams, including 300 military personnel, were dispatched to assist with evacuations and clean-up efforts. The President Luis Arce promises to investigate the cause of the disaster and ensure aid was delivered to those affected. The flood also triggered a landslide in La Paz, destroying homes and leaving several residents trapped under debris. It's reported that Mayor Ivan Arias blamed illegal, unstable construction on hillsides for exacerbating the damage. Authorities have vowed to hold those responsible behind any illegal constructions.
Climate activists and global leaders have convened in Busan, South Korea, for critical United Nations talks on plastic pollution. The 5th round of the Intergovernmental Negotiating Committee aims to draft a legally binding global treaty addressing plastic production, usage and disposal.
Ahead of the talks, about 500 activists formed a human sign on the beach and marched with anti-plastic slogans showcasing artworks made from plastic waste. They emphasised the need to reduce plastic production, particularly in South Korea, which produces nearly 20 million metric tonnes of plastic every year.
So INC5 in the Global Plastics Treaty represents a once-in-a-generation opportunity for us to address plastic pollution, what is a global problem at a global scale. And so we're here to demand that leaders from around the world step up and protect human health, our climate, and biodiversity from the scourge of plastic.
The event venue in Busan reflects sustainability principles, featuring water dispensers and reusable cups instead of single-use plastics. This represents an opportunity to address the global plastic crisis at its roots. While some experts, like Greenpeace, advocate slashing plastic production, countries such as Saudi Arabia and China favour focusing on waste management.
I think what we're looking for is concrete language and text in the treaty that specifically addresses production caps. We can't look at the waste management, solutions without looking at production caps. We have to slow down and start phasing out of plastic production and plastic products, especially starting with the single-use plastics. We need to highlight and understand that all plastics is fossil fuels, all plastics is chemicals, and if we don't address the health impacts, then we're never really going to solve the plastics crisis.
As nations deliberate, the treaty's success could hinge on bridging divides between ambitious production cuts and more moderate waste management strategies.
The COP29 UN Climate Change Conference held in Baku, Azerbaijan, concluded with a landmark agreement to increase public climate finance for developing countries to $300 billion annually by 2035. And now let's round up the achievements of COP29.
I declare the 29th session of the COP, 19th session of the CMP and 6th session of the CMA closed.
The UN Climate Change Conference in Baku closed with a new finance goal. After 2 weeks of intensive negotiations, some 200 countries reached an agreement to triple public finance to developing countries to $300 billion annually by 2035. Work together to scale up finance using public and private sources to the amount of USD 1.3 trillion per year by 2035. On the issue of green energy transition, the International Energy Agency expects global clean energy investment is set to exceed USD 2 trillion for the first time in 2024. Among other achievements, an agreement was reached on carbon markets, making country-to-country trading and a carbon crediting mechanism fully operational. Transparent climate reporting made big strides forward. 13 parties have submitted their first biennial transparency reports: Andorra, Azerbaijan, the European Union, Germany, Guyana, Japan, Kazakhstan, Maldives, Netherlands, Panama, Singapore, Spain and Turkey have led the way on transparent climate reporting and set an example for others. With the Baku work plan, COP29 took a step forward to elevate the voices of indigenous peoples and local communities in climate action. Countries also extended the enhanced Lima work program on gender and climate change for another 10 years. Besides world leaders, more than 55,000 people attended COP29 to share ideas, solutions and build partnerships and coalitions.
An ancient fountain in Turkey is now flowing with water. This comes after extensive restoration on the 1800-year-old Kestos fountain began 12 years ago.
Built by Emperor Hadrian in the 2nd century AD, the Kestos fountain in Turkey is now operational after extensive restoration, which began in 2022. The restored fountain now channels water through a 700-metre-long canal, leading to a luxurious pool. The structure is in Antalya's Aksu district and is part of the Perj ancient city, a Roman city renowned for its marble sculptures.
The main feature of the fountain, as you can see, is that the water flowing from its spout first collects in a pool. Then it flows southward through a channel that is approximately 700 meters long. Today, in the first phase of the works, we only repaired and reinforced a 100-meter section up to the intersection with restoration and conservation efforts. We managed to redirect the flow of the fountain in that direction.
The Kestos fountain is dedicated to the river goddess Kestos and is the third ancient fountain in Turkey to be restored with flowing water. Work on bringing the city back to life has been ongoing since 1946 and is in the UNESCO World Heritage tentative list.
In sport, Peter Burling's New Zealand team started their Sail GP season with a big win in Dubai. They beat the UK and the United States in an exciting final, continuing their successful run in the Sailing Championship.
Peter Burling's team claimed victory on Sunday, marking their third successive win in the opening event of the championship. The exciting final in Dubai saw New Zealand pull ahead of UK and the US in the closing moments. New Zealand had a strong start, with Burling's team leading at Mark 1, but a tactical misstep briefly put them back in the pack. They recovered with skillful sailing to secure the top spot.
Group, new team to get into the final this weekend. I think that's one of the hardest things in these lighter SailGP venues, and then you get the chance to win it all. And we really pulled out our best start at the end, got a great start to leeward, led at Mark 1. I made a bad choice, making it a bit more complicated, taking the right turn, put us right back in the pack, but then we just kept our heels clean and sailed a good race from there to take a win.
The UK's Dylan Fletcher secured second place in his first SailGP event since season 1, whilst the US team, led by Sailor Canfield, achieved a solid third-place finish. New teams like Red Bull Italy and Mubadala Brazil faced challenges but gained valuable experience, while Spain and Australia, strong contenders on day 1, missed out on the final after late struggles. With this win, New Zealand leads the early standings as the Rolex SailGP season resumes in 2025. Fans can expect more thrilling moments as the competition continues.
That's all we have for this hour. You can also get latest news and headlines around the clock on our website, that is anews.tv. Thank you for watching, and also we wish you a good day ahead.